In March 2015, Lithuania reinstated compulsory military service in response to Russia's threatening territorial ambitions. This will give the Lithuanian army access to nearly 4,000 additional soldiers per year. For many countries, the draft is an invaluable resource to bolster a nation's military during times of war. So, which countries around the world still use conscription? Well, conscription, also called a draft, is when a country requires that young, physically and mentally healthy people must enlist in the national military. Historically, most drafts only recruited men. However, some countries like Norway have recently introduced female conscription into the armed forces. Any conscientious objectors or people who refuse to fight on moral, religious, or political grounds are commonly given roles away from combat lines. Conscription is actually a very old concept, and there's evidence that in ancient Egypt and ancient China, a large number of soldiers were conscripted peasants. But in modern times, developed nations have seen a trend towards repealing draft laws, instead favoring voluntary armies. Professional volunteer armies are often more highly skilled and motivated compared to their drafted counterparts. In 1973, the United States got rid of the draft, although young men must still register with the government in case conscription is ever reinstated. Within the European Union, 7 members still retain some form of conscription. These countries are not at war, and there have been recent pushes to abolish the draft. However, many people continue to vote in favor of conscription because they feel it brings communities together and inspires nationalism. The Swiss, for example, believe that the draft unites their diverse nation, which has 4 distinct languages and cultures. Other countries keep the draft because they are continuously under the threat of war. Countries like Russia, South Korea, and Israel are regularly involved in violent conflicts with their neighbors. Having a large army at their disposal is a necessity during an emergency. Israel, in particular, due to its isolated position in hostile territory, has one of the longest conscription periods in the developed world. Men and women are asked to serve for up to 3 years, and many see active service along the West Bank and other flashpoints. While no country mandates indefinite conscription, countries like Eritrea and North Korea come close. In North Korea, men and women are reportedly required to serve up to 10 years, and sometimes longer. Human rights organizations claim that widespread repression and forced labor during conscription are common. But in most countries, the chances of conscripted citizens seeing combat are slim. In Norway, although about 60,000 may be called in for preliminary screening, only 9,000 end up being drafted. Also, in most places, men and women eligible for the draft are usually able to choose between community service and national defense. More than half of the world's countries with active militaries do not maintain the draft. Conscription as a practice was much more popular in early history, but as wars have changed, the draft has slowly lost its purpose. Still, for small countries like Lithuania, it's best to have the strongest armed force possible in the face of Russian aggression. Many countries use conscription to amplify their military strength. To learn more about the most powerful militaries in the world, check out our video. In this regard, the United States is by far the most powerful army in the world. With a budget of roughly $600 billion, the US spends more on its military than the next 7 countries combined. China, the next biggest spender, has a military budget of about $130 billion. Thanks for watching TestTube News. Make sure to like and subscribe for new videos every day.